Head back. We're about ready to head into chapter two. Chapter two, we've touched on it in the previous video. Chapter two is surprise you're not very good with money. So maybe during the break you had a chance to look around where your house or where you're sitting, and you may be agreeing with me a little bit. But the key point in chapter two is I introduced the concept of the feeling brain and the thinking brain. This is not a book about neuroscience or behavioral economics or psychology. This is a book for real people. And what I've tried to do is take this whole concept of your brain and boil it down to a couple of two basic concepts. You've got a feeling brain, you've got a thinking brain. Your feeling brain is primitive. It's been around for eons. It's reactive. Your primitive brain alerts, reacts, it doesn't think. It's instantaneous. It's reflex. It's emotional. This is where your emotions reside. And if you didn't have emotions, you would probably kill yourself. Okay, not intentionally, but what it simply means is if you're familiar with Star Trek, you've got McCoy, who's the emotional engineer down in the engine room, and you've got Spock, who's the rational, intellectual, non-emoting first officer. Those are two polar extremes. If you were Spock, you could not exist in today's economy. You have to have emotions. They come together to make you who you are, and that's what makes you human. So feeling brain, primitive, reactive, emotional. It's multitask. Your multitasking feeling brain does all kinds of amazing things. While you're here watching this, it's processing information, taking notes. It is pumping your heart. It's putting blood through your system. It reminds you to breathe. It regulates your internal systems in response to the environment. It's processing trillions of bits or billions and billions of bits of information that you're being bombarded with. And it does it automatically. Your feeling brain is the default. As humans, we wake up in the morning and our feeling brain is in charge. 95 to 99% of your spending is in your feeling brain. Your emotional feeling brain is where most of this happens. You don't think about it. It's instantaneous. And we'll talk about this more. As I said, it's automatic. You didn't have to stop for a minute and think to breathe. You didn't have to stop for a minute and look down and make sure your heart's working. It doesn't work that way. Your feeling brain generalizes. It doesn't look at the specifics. It takes all this information that is coming in billions and billions of bits of information a second, and it's constantly making autonomous decisions, and these decisions primarily are to keep you alive. As I said, it's quick and it's based on experience. What I mean by experience is there's a lot of really interesting research going on right now as to where emotions come from. And there's a school of thought that says that when we have a significant emotional event, it leaves what's called a marker. These markers become reference points or touchstones that you go back to because you can use that emotional event to make better decisions. And think about it for a second. If you've ever had a significant emotional event, like a bad experience buying a car, I'm going to use cars a lot here, and the guy you were working with or the gal you were working with just as a jerk, you now have this emotional marker that tends to generalize about the car buying experience, about car salespeople, and the like. Those are called biases, and we're going to talk about that later. Now, on the other hand, you also have this thinking brain. The thinking brain is modern. When I say modern, it's really evolved over the last few thousand years. It's proactive. Your thinking brain can be focused. Your thinking brain does taxes. Your thinking brain pays bills. Your thinking brain is cognitive. It is deliberate. Your thinking brain is rational to the degree that it can. Your thinking brain is the one that sits down and actually does the information to do your taxes, that actually reads a small print on a software warranty or on a credit card. It tends to be single task, and I think this is really important. I think it's a myth that we are able to to multitask. Now, some people multitask better than others, and there is research that women multitask better than guys, but that's not the point. Have you ever been in a car and you've got a lot going on, but you've got an important trip? You are don't want to get lost. You don't want to get injured. You know, kids yelling or screaming in the back or whatever. You tell everybody to shut up. You turn the radio off and you focus. That's your thinking brain being engaged, because in most cases, your feeling brain is working when you drive someplace. That's scary. If I asked you to really sit down and drive your car with your thinking brain, you would never get out of your driveway, because your feeling brain gets you there. You intuitively know how to start your car. You intuitively know how to drive. Most people, when you're driving to and from work, you're not even aware of what's going on around you. You don't realize how many miles you drive, how many stop signs you've gone through, how many lights. But if you did a thinking brain drive, you would be deliberate. You would have, and sometimes we do this with our digital maps. But actually, we had to do this when we had the old paper maps or map trips or whatever they were called, that you deliberately had to go into your thinking brain, cognitively concentrate and stay focused so you'd get where you wanted to go. The thinking brain, again, is single tasks. It is by exception. Your thinking brain alerts on the exception, where what it means is it picks something out of the crowd and it gets focused in on there and it moves accordingly. It's on purpose. It is specialized. But your thinking brain is also much slower than your feeling brain. And your thinking brain wants to have things proven. So when I go through this entire book, we're talking about two elements that I think are really important for you to keep in mind. We're going to keep the brain science to a minimum. You're human. Your brain is designed to keep you alive. It does that because you have a feeling brain that is on point, automatic, 24/7, and it's really focused on keeping you alive. But it's not a great device. It makes mistakes. It has not perfect in processing information. It forgets, whatever. For the important critical decisions, you have to move into your thinking brain, and that becomes focused. That becomes deliberate. But the other thing you have to keep in mind is thinking brain tasks take a lot of energy. They burn a lot of calories, but they take a lot of emotional energy. So when we go into our thinking brain mode, we only want to stay there for a little while, and then we drop back into our feeling brain. So keep these points in mind as we move on. And so the key point is, when I'm talking about the thinking, feeling brain, this is what you're using when you're going spending. Just remember again, you were at the mall before, you were looking at somebody buying clothing, you had no intention of buying clothing. Well, what brain went into the store? If it was your thinking brain, you never would have gotten out of the car. But your feeling brain says, no, I think I'll join my friend into the store as we look through, help that person buy some clothing. Then your feeling brain was alerted on the colors. Your feeling brain picked up on the distraction that the store had put up to make you more in the mood to spend money. It's called advertising and marketing. Your feeling brain saw that picture of that beautiful figure up there and put you into that picture. And your feeling brain picked up that garment, put it in the cart, and had you buy it. So keep in mind, you are a complex human being, infinitely complex. You are unique. This is something that you've got to get your head around also. Your brain is unique from anybody else in the universe, which means that you process information a little bit differently and you spend differently. So it is a fallacy that everybody handles money the same way, you included. You have a natural way of processing information and a natural way of working with money. That means you have a unique money temperament. Money temperament is how you naturally think and feel about money. It's a function of your natural feeling brain, your experiences, your biology, your culture, and your thinking brain, which is deliberate. Your context and your culture matter in spending money. I guarantee that after we get through the C19 period, we're going to have people with new emotional markers, with new ways of looking at money, new ways of spending money. It's natural because we're human. So your physiology matters, your mental state matters, and the behavior that kept you alive just a few generations back as a subsistence farmer or in some cave are the same human traits and human spirit, if I will, that worked then is alive today. The problem we have is the natural hardwiring we developed to keep us alive in the forest is killing us in today's consumption driven, very complex, fast paced economy. And in a lot of cases, got to remember that our brains just do not cope well with this. So there you go, chapter 2. There's some good exercises in here, and once you go through the chapter, I think I've got some action steps that will help you nail down your uniqueness, how you uniquely think and feel about money. Because I think this is important, because once you understand your unique money temperament, then you can go out and make better decisions. Join me back in a couple of minutes. We'll do chapter 3.